Hey, welcome back to my channel. It's Wendy here from Toonpish Crafts and I hope you're doing okay. Let's Resin have released some UV resistant resin and it's meant for outside. Because it's UV resistant, it's ideal for resin makes that you put outside. Now they've asked me to try it and I said yes please. And to make something that I want to go outside, I'm going to make some little owls. We do have a problem with a lot of pigeons around here and they've been quite destructive and cost me quite a lot of money. And apparently a picture or an ornament of an owl will scare away the pigeons. Now I don't know how true that is, but I'm willing to try. So I'm going to make quite a few little owls to go outside with outdoor resin. So this is the Let's Resin epoxy resin, which is UV resistant, designed for outside. It definitely says on the bottle it's UV resistant. The leaflet in the box describes it as a 1:1 mixing ratio with a 40 to 60 minute work time. Demoulding time is 8 to 24 hours and it has a heat resistance of 160 degrees Fahrenheit. There are plenty in this leaflet of tips and tricks to help you create some resin. I'm not going to go through the whole lot, but there is a lot in there. So let's try and make some owls. I have this owl mould which I purchased from Amazon and the link for that will be in the description box below. If I miss any links, please do let me know. I am occasionally forgetful and if I do forget a link, please let me know in the comments section below. I'm measuring out here about 120 ml of resin. That's 60 part A, 60 part B. I figured that is plenty for the owl. Now my first impressions of this resin was it seemed quite thin compared to Let's Resin's normal 2-part epoxy. And I was actually blown away by how quick you can mix it. It may be because it's thinner that it mixes easier, but it really didn't take any time at all. And this is only 2 times the speed. So according to my calculations, this took 53 seconds. Once I've mixed it, however, I am going to put it through the degassing machine because I want this owl to be completely clear. And as usual, it's really nice to see the degassing machine doing its thing. I do enjoy watching that. Once it's all degassed, again, it did not take long at all. This resin is thinner than their normal consistency resin. Not by much, but it makes a difference. And I'm just going to pour completely clear resin into this owl, not only because I want to try it outside in the sunshine with nothing in it, just clear resin, but I also want to see what it's like at getting rid of its own bubbles. And there's only one way to figure that one out, and that is if you pour clear resin and just let it cure on the worktop. I do use a micro brush to get rid of any stuck air, and then I just spray it with isopropyl alcohol and let it cure on the worktop. The following day I can demould. This is the following day. I practically always leave resin to cure overnight. Looking at it without demoulding, it looks pretty bubble free, and yes, when you take it out there is no bubbles in that whatsoever. Beautifully crystal clear resin. And as I said, I didn't put any big attention to this. I poured it and let it cure. Stunning resin. Now, although this resin is designed to go outside, there's absolutely no reason you can't use it inside too. For the second owl, I'm going to do things a little bit different. I'm going to do quite a few of these owls because I want them in my garden, and while I'm making them I might as well show you what I'm doing with them. I've decided to make each owl in a different way. So every owl I'm making in this video is made in a different way. Now, I do intend to have the resin showing, so I'm not going to completely cover any of the designs with my normal colouring method with mica powder. I will do one that is partly coloured, but I want the resin to actually be seen at the front so that when they are hanging up outside, we can see if the resin has degraded in colour or not. So for this one, I have put a thin clear layer of resin and I've let it cure. Now, ideally, I should have caught this when it was sticky. Unfortunately, it went past the sticky stage. This is only a few hours after pouring as well. It's the same day, but I'd missed the sticky stage. Now, it might be that this resin does cure quite quickly, and that might mean why I missed the sticky stage. But whatever it is, I missed it. Doesn't mean I can't colour it though, so I'm using Let's Resin Chameleon powder on the back of this clear resin. And although it is quite a light touch, it does kind of stick. Could have done with it being more sticky though, to be honest with you. But it is what it is, and we do have a colour, even though it's a little patchy. So I dot the brush over the back to try and give it a bit of a texture. Once I'm happy-ish with the colour, then I'm going to cover the back in black resin. Again, this is exactly the same resin that I've added black pigment to, so that it will push the colour at the front, but we've still got the clear resin at the front of the design. The following day, I can demould. And I'm quite looking forward to this. I don't know how the colour is going to come out at this point. I mean, I do now, I've already seen it. But at this point, myself, I didn't know how it was going to take. Bearing in mind, it was really quite light. But that chameleon powder is stunning. And although it didn't stick very well, the patchiness kind of gives it a really nice design, in my opinion. So I was thinking to myself, how can I add colour in these pieces without actually colouring the entire mould with mica? Because that will ruin the whole experiment and you won't see the actual resin through the mica, you'll see the mica. So I figured I would put some UV coloured resin in the mould and cure it up before I pour some coloured resin on top. I do like colour and I like the idea of putting different colours into a piece, even though I'm pouring one colour of resin on the back. Now, I'm not sure, but I don't think I've ever done this before. I don't think I've put UV resin into a mould and then poured resin on top. Not like this, not in colours. I don't think I have. I'm thinking back and I don't think I've made anything that way. But this was quite good fun. Because the mould doesn't lay flat, it's quite a detailed 3D dimension mould. I did have to pick up the mould and try and keep the UV resin in the places I wanted it to go. A couple of bits had to be layered because I only wanted them in a certain area. And I carried on and did quite a lot of this mould in translucent coloured UV resin, but I didn't touch the belly part. Now, I was aware that when you cure UV resin, it shrinks. All resin shrinks actually when you cure it. UV resin does tend to shrink back quite considerably. So as I'm putting this into a mould, whenever I pick up the mould, I am aware that some parts might lift. And as I'm going to be pouring over the top with 2-part epoxy resin, it may go under the parts that lift. I hope you catch my drift. So I'm being quite careful not to mess around with the mould too much so that the UV resin doesn't lift very much. But I am sure it will do in places. I'm sure we can deal with that afterwards. I quite enjoyed doing this technique, I've got to be honest. I did start using a torch to flash cure the resin so that I could move it around and do a next layer. I used several different colours of the coloured UV resin from Let's Resin. I made sure I stirred the bottles before I tried using them because they do settle, the colours do settle in the bottles. So it is a good idea to stir them before you start using them. It's also worth knowing that this type of UV resin does heat up extremely fast, and you do get some little whiffs of smoke sometimes where it's heating up quite quickly. I used plenty of light, bright colours. Knowing that it's going outside, I thought it would make a cheery owl. And I'm really happy with how it's going so far. But I've got to pour the resin over the back, and to do that I'm going to add some seashell colour in, and I'm also going to add some white. This is from the Let's Resin 24 box, I believe, maybe 36 box of colours, I'm not quite sure, but it's their large box of colours, and seashell is a beautiful colour, and I'm also going to add in the white. I'd just like to say here thank you to Let's Resin for sponsoring this video. All the links for Let's Resin will be in the description box below, together with a discount code for UK, Canada and the USA. There are different discount codes depending on whether you go to the website or to Amazon. And the UK one for the Amazon and the website is now the same, it's just been changed. If you have any trouble with any of my discount codes, please do drop me a line, because it is very confusing trying to keep up with changes in discount codes. I'm pretty sure they're all correct now. I've had a discussion with Let's Resin recently and I'm pretty sure they're all correct now. But if you have trouble using one of my discount codes, please do let me know. So I pour the resin on the back of this piece, I give it a squirt of isopropyl alcohol and I leave it to cure. The following day I can demould and see what my creation has turned out like. I'm quite excited by this one. I do love bright colours. I used white on the back so that it didn't detract from the bright colours, and I am really happy with this. Moving on to the mica dusting method. Now I'm going to just use one Chameleon powder, which is teal. I'm going to dust the majority of this mould apart from his belly. I want the belly to be completely free of dust. So it's pretty much a quick thing to do. I have my makeup brush, which is actually the brush that came in the pack of these Chameleon pigments. They usually come with a brush, and that is very handy. It's like a soft makeup brush, and I do prefer makeup brushes over other types of brushes. Once I've coloured all the parts that I want to colour, I make sure I go around the edges, because the black on the back is going to pick up all the colour and you don't want black edges. And then I clean off the belly. First of all, I give it a bit of a wipe with a baby wipe, and then I use isopropyl alcohol on cotton buds just to clean up the lines. It doesn't take much at all because of the way the mould is, the 3D image, it's easy to go around the outside edge. Now while I was filming these owls, my black epoxy resin paste popped through the door. This is Let's Resin's new black epoxy colorant. It's a paste, it's quite thick, and I wanted to try it because I'm going to use black on the back of this owl anyway. Now when I poured it in, I thought, oh, is this going to actually mix very well? But it mixed in really easily. I did have to put some more black in because I didn't know how pigmented it was, and obviously I didn't want to overdo it to start with. But yeah, it didn't take much at all, and the colour was super jet black. Absolutely beautiful. Once I got my resin all mixed, I then started to pour in the owl. Now, you're not going to be able to see through black resin, so you won't see if there's any trapped bubbles in your mould. So this is being poured extremely slowly. I did not want to encourage any more bubbles, and I wanted to be able to stop any forming as much as possible. So I completely filled this mould up with black resin, and I squirted it with isopropyl alcohol and left it to cure on my worktop. So the following day, again, I can demould. By the way, I only have one owl mould. So each of these owls is taking a day to make. Just thought I'd tell you that. But I really like this one. And I like the black centre. That is where we're going to see the resin after it's been in the sun. So my next make, I figured, well, let's put some glow-in-the-dark stones into the next one. Not only will it be something different, some different way of making the mould, but it will also glow in the dark when it's outside, and I thought that would be quite cool. These little stones can be purchased in quite a few places. I would imagine you can find them on Amazon. These ones actually did come from Temu, I think, although I'm presuming that they've got them on AliExpress and probably other places as well. I'm mixing the resin into the stones. Now I know that's not going to give the resin any colour, but it will get rid of the air that's surrounding the stones, and I decided to use the whole 2 packets of stones. I can always put it in a different mould which I have off to the side, but I mixed it all around because mixing stones in resin you are going to get bubbles. So I thought, well, I'll mix the stones into the resin and then I'll put the resin into the bubble removing machine. And again, I thought I'd show you because it is so fascinating to watch. So all the bubbles, all the air is now out of that resin, and I can put the stones in the owl. Now I did want as flat owl as possible at the back, so it did take me a while to turn the stones over to make sure they were quite flat, to get them in the right place, and to make sure they weren't on top of each other, so there's great big lumps at the back. It took me a while. I'm not going to put you through that, but it was a little time consuming. But once I got them in the right place, I squirted them with isopropyl alcohol as normal and left them to cure. And the following day, I have a little bobbly pink owl. This is going to look quite different when it glows because not all of the owl has the stones in. Those 2 little bits of branch, too thin. But I do really like it, and I think it would look good in the garden. Moving on to my last make. Now this was inspired by another YouTuber, Mary, Jellybean Crafts, spelt with a Z on the end, and I'll put the link to the video I watched in the description box below. She's quite a new YouTuber, and it would be really nice for you to go and check out her channel. Mary's adapted the raindrop or water droplet effect and decided to go with squiggles, and I thought that was such an amazing thing to do. So I'm going to cover the entire back of this already poured clear coat of resin in Let's Resin UV resin in squiggles. Each time I put a squiggle down, I flash cure it with a torch and move on. And it is a little time consuming, but to be honest with you, it is so much fun to do. I went with squiggles. I thought they would work well. I ended up kind of making dragon scales kind of thing, and I thought that would be really good to go on the back of a dragon mould, but we'll get to that in the future, I think. So I just went over the entire mould with little squiggles of UV resin, making them into like little tiny circles, and it was a lot of fun. I could have done with a bit more organisation with my squiggles, but it was still fun. And I'm going to use 4 colours. They are dark violet, dark blue, orchid and gold. Again, these are from the Let's Resin large set of colours. I am going over the back with mica to give a mottled light colour. but I'm not putting black on the back of this. I'm going to put white because these are not Chameleon colours, they are just mica colours, and they are light mica colours at that, so black will destroy these colours. You need to go over this sort of mica with a light colour, and any colour is going to change the colour of this mica, so white would be better. I just want to say a quick hello and welcome to all my new subscribers. And if you haven't subscribed already, maybe you would consider doing so. It doesn't cost a thing, you don't have to be a YouTube member, and it will really help my channel out. And don't forget to leave a comment, and a thumbs up will really help too. And as I'm now running out of time, I use white polyurethane from Let's Resin. White polyurethane resin is really quick to cure. You only get 30 seconds to stir it. It looks clear, but this one cures white. There are other polyurethane resin colours on the market. Let's Resin just sell the white at this time. But it is really handy if you are in a rush and need to get a project done quickly. And I thought I'd show you the curing, which again is fascinating to watch. Now this polyurethane resin takes about 30 to 40 minutes to cure. I left it for about an hour because it's quite thin, and then I can demould. And the design is absolutely gorgeous. My colouring's a little off, but I really like how it came out. And I really enjoyed making these 6 owls. They're going to be put up in my garden, and we won't know what the outcome is of how this resin copes with outdoors until they've been outside for quite some time. So I will have to get back to you in about 6 months to a year. For now, I really enjoyed making it. I love that it mixed really well. I enjoyed making the different designs, and I love that this resin is bubble free. Thanks so much Let's Resin for sponsoring this video. Thanks for watching this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you've got something out of it. Come back and see me next week, because you never know what I'm going to do. I never know what I'm going to be up to. Have a great week. Happy crafting, and bye for now.